this episode of Monday Morning Music. Today I have the pleasure of presenting to you the top of all music for me ever written. It is my favorite piece of music that I've ever heard played, that I've ever studied, that I've ever performed, conducted, whatever. This is the top of my music list. And it comes from my favorite composer as well, Igor Stravinsky. Stravinsky was, in my mind, beyond his years and his time in terms of composition. The Rite of Spring is brilliant. Firebird is amazing. But it's not, neither one of those pieces are the top of my list. They're very close in terms of his writings overall, but for me, the piece at the top of my list for all music is his Octet. Now, the Octet is very different than anything else that he had ever written. First of all, it's for a small ensemble. It's an octet, 8 players. You have a flute, you have a clarinet, you have a pair of bassoons, a pair of trumpets, and a pair of trombones. So it's a much smaller instrumentation, which was kind of popular back in the 1920s. This was done in 1922, so we're on the early side of that, but of the 1920s, of that decade. But you started to see composers go to smaller ensembles because it was a little bit more manageable in terms of, financial things and everything, as opposed to these big ballets and these big things, these big other productions. But it wasn't just the instrumentation, it was how we treated the instrumentation. It was the virtuosity of the bassoon part. The bassoon parts are fantastic. I mean, they have these little like these little figures that go back and forth in the variations, and just some of the other delicacies of just really showing off what the bassoon can do. And we know that he used the bassoon to start the Rite of Spring and showing the extended range of the instrument at that point in time. But here he's showing the technical abilities, he's showing the articulations, the style, and just the beauty and the grace that this instrument can play with, as well as the versatility. It's just amazing writing in my mind. And the other thing that really is interesting about this piece to me is how we get away from the Rite of Spring and the primitivism and even some of the minimalist compositional styles that he did kind of employ with that style of writing, where it was very repetitive and very just these theme phrases kind of over being extended, and this goes away from that primitive new style of writing to not making a mockery of classical styles, but definitely his twist on what classical styles were. This piece is a 3-movement piece. The first movement being a sonata with an introduction. The second movement being a set of theme and variations, and then it goes into this very bright, upbeat finale. And so you get this piece of music that is using new forms of composition, writing styles, the chromaticism, the use of the instruments, but taking the classical forms and putting this music into that classical form, and so it's really the start of the neoclassic idea of revisiting what was before but giving a new twist, and it's just a beautifully written piece. It's got light, delicate playing. It's got some very mysterious playing. It's got some aggressiveness to it, some arrogance. And at the very, very end of the piece, you get this kind of jazzy tango back and forth between the flute and clarinet. They're playing, like, one plays a note in the melody, the next person plays a note in the melody. So it's kind of Hocket idea, and it's just wonderfully, wonderfully done. And so there you have it, my favorite piece ever written, the Octet for Winds by Igor Stravinsky. Good day, bad day, I could listen to this piece any day. I want to throw different versions of the piece, how it's performed, in the blog here, so feel free to listen to those. I've got a version of the second and third movements that's performed by the University of Southern Mississippi, the chamber winds that I worked with on my doctoral recital, where I got to perform this piece. So check that out as well. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy Monday, and we'll be back with you next week.